You might have noticed a change in your neighborhood lately. Yep, Sprint stores are now T-Mobile stores. Now that Sprint is T-Mobile, you get more coverage, value, and benefits than ever before. We've invested billions to bring our 5G from big cities to small towns across America. And great coverage is just the start. From high-speed mobile hotspot data to weekly deals and giveaways, our customers get tons of great benefits. Head to your new T-Mobile store to learn more.
Qualifying service and capable device required. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain plan or features. See T-Mobile.com.
The perfect video needs the perfect music. That's why premium beat tracks are produced by award-winning musicians at world-class studios. Plus, our license gives you tracks for a lifetime. Pay once and never again. Save 25% on your next track at premiumbeat.com/royalty-free/podcast.
You're listening to Awakening Code Radio. Mind-expanding, heart-opening, talk and music to raise your vibration.
Some people consider it the shifting of the ages. Others see it as a whole new paradigm for humanity. But whatever you want to call it, it's hard to deny that we are in a moment of immense change. A moment challenging us to wake up and live life more consciously. This is Eric Rankin.
And I'm Michelle Anderson, and you're listening to Awakening Code Radio,
where the conversation is always about raising the vibration of love, compassion,
happiness, forgiveness, stewardship, health, and peace.
Thank you for joining the conversation.
This is Deepak Chopra.
Hi, I'm Marianne Williamson.
Hi, this is Greg Braden, and you are listening to Awakening Code Radio.
Well, welcome everybody to Awakening Code Radio. As usual, I wasn't looking at the board, and of all things, Tyler, the founder of the radio station, is here. He's not looking over my shoulder, which he should have been, because
Did you really mess up?
Yeah.
You'd think by now.
You would think by now. We have this joke every single show, but
it's going to be fixed.
So Alyssa has said, "Oh no, I'll just load your intro in for you." So that's the only thing, and it's not there. I got spoiled thinking she was going to do it forever.
Guess what? I don't have the power to fire or punish anybody anymore. I can't do anything about it.
So let's introduce our listeners. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I am half of your hosting team, Eric Rankin, and to my right, always in the right seat, Michelle Anderson.
I'm in the right seat. I'm in the hot seat
Michelle
tonight.
Anderson.
I'm in the hot seat, and I am super excited that Tyler, we wanted to do this show with Tyler, and we had another show scheduled. So for the people that are expecting the show that I said was going to be on tonight, it's like a bait and switch situation. So I want to give shout outs to Chantal and Haley and Madison. Madison might be in labor right now. And they were sitting at our table with Adelia Sandoval and her lovely wife, Mariah, Friday night at the Ecology Center. And I was going to sneak that show in. We are going to do that show at some point called Returning to the Village. And everybody at the table got really excited that I was going to do a show about what I experienced Friday night. And Amanda couldn't do it tonight. So if you're listening live, I just wanted to give you that shout out. Everyone that was there at the Ecology Center, it was amazing. And we're going to do a show about what they're doing there and the farm-to-table dinners and the 28-acre ranch. And so today I called Tyler and said, hey, you have a special announcement. We have something to do with it. We wanted to put you on at the beginning of the show. How do you want to do? Do you want to do a whole hour? And he was.
And I haven't been answering the phone a lot lately, just so you know. But when you call,
Tyler's
first ring.
And why are you looking at Tyler like? How do you want to do it? I'm here in the button seat.
You're in the real hot seat.
Watch what I can do. Boom! You're both off. Yeah, we're both laughing. It doesn't matter.
That's pretty powerful.
Eric really likes to be in his power.
So what we will do, we do want to announce, I think it's a very exciting thing of what you're doing. So
yes.
Tyler is, I'll give you a little backstory as far as I can tell it. I happened to be in Laguna Beach in 2012 recovering from a surgery I had, an actual real emergency surgery I had. I never look at the paper anymore. I don't look at mainstream news anymore or whatever, but I happened to pick up the local Laguna Beach newspaper coming out of the timeshare I was in and said, oh, there was your picture, Tyler. New radio station coming into town, Laguna Beach, and you're sitting on the beach by the mixer board and everything else. And the last thing said, if you have an idea for a show, why don't you submit it to us or contact us or something like that? So I said, I'd always imagined in some capacity a talk show that talked about spiritual things or talked about anything I was interested in. It doesn't have to be necessarily spiritual. It could be physics, science, extraterrestrial stuff, all kinds of things that I'm interested in. So I forget how I reached out to you, whether it was an email or something, and got a very quick reply back like, not really what we're looking for.
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
We're picturing it being more, something that everybody can relate to, and maybe more local, like local government or local entertainment or music oriented. And that was it. I said, okay, no worries. And then I think it was like 2 weeks later, and you reached back out to me and said something like, hey, I've talked to a few people and told them about your idea, and they thought it sounded like a good idea. So if you're still interested, we have a few spots left, and it was very late. It was 10 to midnight.
Yes.
2 hours starting at 10. I'm burnt out now, starting at 8 and going to 9. And we started at 10 and went to midnight. And right away, that was crazy because right away we had so many listeners. We kind of piggybacked onto this Facebook group called 1111 Awakening Code.
Right.
That's Georgina Beeman started that in England. And
it's still going.
Still going. A million plus fans or whatever of that.
One of our
page.
listeners just sent me a post from the 1111 Awakening Code page today. Geraldine, I'm giving you a shout out. She texted me today and said it was appropriate. So yeah.
So we piggybacked on that success. We changed the name of our show from Soul Searching to Awakening Code.
Oh, yeah, I forgot it was called Soul Searching.
Just for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And it exploded. I mean, we had so many people that I think your equipment, it kind of crashed your equipment, people trying to listen and saying it keeps dropping off and we can't do it. And we just it was a great success from the first show. I was nervous. I still get nervous. I look at the board and I still get nervous and button
In your
anxiety.
defense, it has changed a little bit over time and recently. So
yeah. It is easier, I think, now for the most part.
Okay, good.
I like it.
It's every show.
I know.
No lie.
It is almost
and now
every
you're
show.
really watching us, so now you
No,
really know.
I know. If you look at like your iTunes reviews, it's like, man, this show's amazing. But if only that guy could figure out the buttons.
And he talks about it every time.
And it's like, I know. That's what I tell him too, iTunes reviewer.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so
and admin calling, though, seriously, it wouldn't be the show it is if we didn't have admin calling.
That's true.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
true.
It's all her. She's the magic behind it.
So Tyler, listener, I want you to just picture Tyler. When he started this station, he was 23 years old. Now, this is the guy that has the vision for, and you'd already worked in radio in Arizona or?
In Palm Springs,
Okay.
yeah, and LA. So I'd been in radio since I was, and Arizona, I guess, since I was 17. So technically I was 6 years in.
At 23.
Yeah.
And Tyler is very youthful
And you're right out
looking.
of the chute.
Yeah. So he was 23. He looked 17 still.
Yeah.
And he's the one with this vision. We're going to make it work. It's going to be this. We're going to get the city behind us. And it all came true more than I think I would think even you might expect.
Absolutely.
It's really been a phenomenally successful small radio platform for Laguna Beach. And of course, from day one, there was podcasting, and that was pretty fresh and new in 2012. And it's been a great ride. I mean, I still feel like an intern, learning this, but it has done a lot for me in my life.
He doesn't even know how to play our bumpers. I had to show him. We didn't do it last week.
We're
going to do it today.
Do we have to keep beating that dead horse? Talking about Tyler. And it has been offered me so many opportunities to talk to people that are heroes of mine. I mean, we've had James Redfield, author of Celestine Prophecy. That book was a major pivot point in my life. 2 hours he was on the show, and Deepak Chopra and Greg Braden, maybe people you don't know, but I just can't believe that I'm the guy who's getting to steer. And it's not just a 2-minute soundbite conversation. We have these guys on for an hour or 2 hours and get to really drop into the conversation. So, I just wanted to thank you face to face for what an amazing opportunity that has been for me to do this. And so now.
And thank you from our listeners, because for the last year and a half, it's been challenging for me to, to get here. Just to be in the right frame of mind to get here. I've been very challenged, and it's the listeners that keep me going personally. I think, and I relay things to Eric, but our listeners are constantly reaching out. Just this morning, I had one reach out, and, they thank us for persevering through these times and giving them hope and helping them stay calm and giving them, something to kind of hold on to and grasp. And I love being able to connect them with each other too. So
yeah,
thank you. You did that. You made the world come together just by allowing us this platform. It's been phenomenal. People in every country,
Yeah.
And the ironical thing, I guess, to bring the loop around is our show has done well here at the station. I mean,
exceedingly well.
The show that you roll your eyes around.
Yes, exactly. And there's a few lessons in there, and that's one of them for sure.
Yeah, it's been a blast, but it's been fun that it's done well. Lots of listeners all over the world. We get to hear from people all over the world. And our podcast listeners are our biggest group. And you're here tonight to talk about some exciting news regarding the podcast world.
Yes.
So why don't you tell
Let's
people
dive in.
what you're up to?
Okay.
Well, people have asked me since I started the station, what are you going to do next? And I've never had the answer because I felt so much sense of community here. I felt what we were doing was so special. I felt this radio station was so special. And it would never make sense for me to go to another radio station. Like once this became successful after a few years, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to K-Rock. That would be like selling my soul out to corporate radio and to everything that we fight against at this station. So I felt that if I were staying in radio forever, I would basically live and die in this room. However, at some point, I realized we had kind of missed the boat. And by we, I mean our shows here had kind of missed the boat on podcasting. Because like you said, 10 years ago, we started the station. Podcasting was very new.
Yeah.
Here's some fun stats for you as I've been learning from my new company. Just 3 years ago in 2018, only like 32% of people were aware of what a podcast even was. And there were about 500,000 podcasts in the world. Today, there are over 2 million podcasts.
Wow.
And 89% of people are aware of what a podcast is. And 112 million people listen to podcasts in the U.S. on an annual basis. And that's growing 10% every year. So anyway, in 2020, especially during COVID, I was thinking like, what can I be doing? Because I felt that, and I still feel that, I had taken this radio station, as far as I personally could take it. 10 years is a long time to be doing anything. And I got it to the point where it was doing all those things that you mentioned that I wanted it to do in the beginning. Have city support. We have signs on the canyon now that say, hey, welcome to Laguna. Listen to this radio station. That gives me like goosebumps to think about.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that the city who was like, okay, kid, like, yeah, go start your radio station.
Right, have fun.
Now is like, here's a sign that tells listeners to listen to your radio station. That's a huge deal. I mean, after all the concerts we did with the Beach Boys and with the Animals and Kenny Loggins, I mean, we have some major accomplishments, and I could definitely keep finding a few accomplishments here and there to achieve, but I also feel extremely satisfied with what I have. And I feel that's a pretty good time to go out of something. I don't want to leave on any terms that would have been negative. I'd rather leave saying like, here's what I did, take it and run with it, Laguna. Yeah. And I finally had some really good staff people in place as well that I felt could ultimately run the station, which I never really felt before. So anyway, that's how I came to the decision of, okay, I know I'm done. So what now? And just kind of noticing what was happening in podcasting, this upswing of an industry. And everyone always told me when I got into radio, careful, that's a dying industry, And I was like, don't worry, I'm going to fix it. And we did fix it here in Laguna, but I can't fix it everywhere. Right. Podcasting is not a dying industry. And the way people consume audio will always exist, but it's just going to evolve, and that's the current evolution of it. That's the current incarnation. People have been listening to audio since we had audio,
right?
And TV didn't kill it, and the internet didn't kill it, and podcasting's not killing radio, but it's affecting it, and satellite radio still coexists with all those things. So people still crave audio mediums. Sure. And podcasting is the one that exists now.
Well, and there's so many, things you are doing when you're an audio customer. Everything from just driving in your car or doing errands or whatever, yes, that's why audio is never going to go away.
A lot of our friends tell us they're gardening while they listen to the show.
Sure.
Exactly.
So it's a thing. You want audio content, and if you know where you can go to find particular types of interesting things to you, why wouldn't you tune into that?
Right. So when you start a company, as I've learned in my entrepreneurial, young life, you have to solve a problem. And with the radio station in Laguna, the problem we were solving was that there wasn't a radio station in Laguna. Lo and behold, here we are. So the problem that I wanted to solve with podcasting was a personal one, which is I don't listen to podcasts because they're too long and they suck. Those are my two reasons for not wanting to listen to podcasts.
Alyssa says the same thing.
Yeah,
she's the same.
I don't have time, and I don't have the patience, especially as a radio professional, to tolerate what people do. And you figured it out. You start your show, you get right to it, you get right to your guest. You don't make it about yourself, you make it about your guest. You guys have a formula that works, and you figured it out. Most hosts do not. And podcasts for the 2 million people that have them now, are kind of like just a pet self-promotional project that's hey, I've got a podcast, and a few people listen. It's become a thing to have. And all of that has muddled and pushed aside the really good stuff, and it's really hard to find it now. So I wanted to set out to make a network of podcasts that were A, short, because, again, length, and B, of excellent production quality, using my knowledge that I've built in radio to make stuff that's professionally voiced, recorded on excellent equipment, edited perfectly, and doesn't waste any of the listener's time, and respects their ear as a discerning thing these days that can tell good quality production from poor production. So hence the birth of Snippet. Snippet.fm. Thank you.
Good one, Eric.
Snippet is the name of the network, and we create original, mostly original podcasts that are all 20 minutes or less episodes. We have a few different categories that we're focusing on to start. Some are lifestyle, which you guys would fall under, I guess, and music, and scripted audio drama type shows. And that's very exciting to me because the 1940s is back, and people are listening to audio dramas in audio form again, like they're binging a Netflix show. And we've made one of those that we've launched this week as well.
Fun.
And it's just been really cool to do a different kind of radio, different kind of broadcast that doesn't necessarily have to do with this community. As much as I love this community, I don't have to talk about it if I don't want to anymore. Right. We can talk about something that caters to the whole world, and to focus on making stuff that's just really digestible, really good, really to the point, and get you in and out in less than 20 minutes.
It feels right. And of course, when we think of Podcast King, you think of Joe Rogan. It's the
Russell Brand.
Yeah,
that's
right.
The one
Russell
I
Brand. Just the extreme of success and showing that you can, be really successful podcasting. And then there's, like you said, the college kids or high school kids. Hey, I got a podcast. I don't know where we fit in the array.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. Where would you think?
So here's some more stats for you. Only 1 to 3% of podcasts get more than $10,000 of revenue per show, per episode, per week. And those are the Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, This American Life. You can literally name what they are, because it's only
so few.
Yeah, it's
I notice a lot of movie stars are more and more influencer type people are starting podcasts.
Yeah, it's a brand building tool, because even if for them it doesn't monetize anything, it's just another way for them to promote themselves. And I think especially during COVID, we saw a huge uptick in podcasting, because what are you going to do? Get a microphone and plug it into your computer and start a podcast at home. But you guys fit toward the top of that scale, of that paradigm, because although we won't measure you in revenue, we'll just measure you in listeners. The thousands and thousands of listeners you get every week is in the top 10 to 15% of all podcasts that there are.
That's pretty good.
I would say so.
I wouldn't have even believed that, but
that is true.
That's pretty cool.
That is true.
Well, we owe our listeners the great gratitude for that.
It still blows my mind today when I told Eric that Friday night dinner I went to, where a lady comes running up to me and says, you're Michelle Anderson from Awakening Code Radio, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, I don't understand. I don't know. But
yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
She recognized my voice.
I had 2 of those. One in town where a woman was behind me and she just tapped my shoulder. She goes, "Are you Eric Rankin?" Well, that's Laguna Beach. The other time was in Burning Man, and I was massaging someone's feet.
As one does at Burning Man.
Well, our lounge, that's all we do. We serve tequila shots and massage people's feet. We have a whole, 10 people that we do that for. And I had a mask on my face because you wear it just for dust.
Yeah.
She had a mask on her face. I'm talking. She goes, "You're not Eric Rankin, are you?" And I'm like, "I am." I just thought she would knew someone from the camp or Burning Man. And she goes, "You're not going to believe this. I recognized your voice from your podcast."
That's the dream.
That's crazy.
The dream
it happened to me in
person.
Georgia when I was at a conference in Georgia, and some guy said, "You're Michelle Anderson from Awakening Code Radio. My girlfriend loves you. She listens to you all the time, and let me go get her."
Wow.
It does blow my mind.
I've never looked at any of the stats.
We're not like fangirl and fanboy.
I never look at any of the stats, and I figure we're talking to about 3 people.
Yeah.
And whenever I see somebody, friends that I'm not even thinking of, "Oh, I listen to your," they just say it very casually, like, "Oh, I listen to you all the time," and I'm never thinking of it. I'm like, "Oh, wow." That's
a lot of podcasters want to be where you guys are now, even though it doesn't feel like you're famous or anything like that.
We don't want.
That was never the motivation,
right? Yeah. But they do want what you have, which is just regular, dedicated listeners, and that's what everybody is searching. And I love to use you guys as an example because what made you successful, I think, among many things, was consistency and just doing the show every week, no matter what. Finding a guest, putting it out there, even if it wasn't like your best show, especially at the beginning, or the best guest, you just keep doing it. And then you have reliability, you have a reputation, and people can count on this show to continue existing because a lot of casts do what's called pod fade, which I guess is a new word, where they just stop. They'll have a really nice idea, nice package, good guest, and they'll do it for a few months, and then it's over.
That's what would have happened to me if not for Michelle and Colleen. I would have gone through. I am not a guy to do something once a week, ever. I mean, I'd go to a church for a year. I would do something for a year. I would commit to something, and then I could just stand away from it and go, I did it.
Yeah.
To do something like this every week for 9 years is so unlike anything I would do. But it was Michelle and listeners and Colleen doing all the things I would not want to do. Literally, you know what I do. I come here and sit down and start talking. We don't fill out, questionnaires with guests in advance.
Right.
And people want to do cold, conversations beforehand to know what we're going to talk about. I'm like, listen, I trust that you know what you're going to talk about and what you're passionate about. I feel like between Michelle and I, we're going to bring a masculine, feminine aspect to every conversation. Let's just trust that process and have a real conversation.
Last week's guest wanted to talk to me beforehand, and he had never been on a radio interview. So I talked to him for an hour and a half, and I took notes. And then and he was just delightful. And then I was able to reflect back to him, what I'd like to do is this, and you could tell that story a lot shorter. And I gave him suggestions for sound bites and that I could help lead him there because I already knew the story. And I think that worked.
So how would people find our show on Snippet?
So, here's the other big part of the announcement. I'm sure you already said this on your show, but Awakening Code Radio now has a shortened version on Snippet called The Awakening Code. So that's how you distinguish the two in terms of searching it. And you can see that Snippet is like the author of it. So if you search on any major podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Slacker, whatever, and you search for The Awakening Code, you will see your new short shows start to pop up.
With our logo that Colleen created.
Same logo.
I
love that logo.
Yep, same logo, but it's slightly varied, so you can tell it's kind of its own thing, and it's got Snippet on it. You can also go to our website, snippet.fm, and you can find all our shows there, including yours. But I would suggest your longtime listeners would really enjoy this because it's a walk down memory lane of some of the people you've had that you haven't, maybe rebroadcast in a while or they haven't listened to in a while, but edited in a way that A, is short, and B, makes it relevant to today, even if the guest was on a few years ago.
And that brings me to what happened today. I spoke with Colleen and told her you were good. I said, you'll never guess who's going to be on tonight. I'm like, guess who we have as our guest. And she's all, tell me. So I called her and I told her you were coming on, and she had listened to your one of the shows that you hosted that we talked about, Boy Meets 90s, and she gave me the whole rundown of she said it's Tyler interviewing Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World, and he was the one that played Sean.
Yep.
And she gave me kind of like a lowdown of what you did and, how you talked with him. So while I was getting ready before I came here, I listened to that show. But I had also listened to the show, our first Out of the Gate show, which is on now. I guess it's up on the website now. I thought it was going to launch on Thursday, so I was kind of holding back till Thursday.
You've got another episode coming out this coming Thursday,
okay.
Yeah, with Deepak Chopra, yeah.
So it was, the first show was with Marianne Williamson, and I didn't co-host that show, but there is a woman talking, and we think we know who it is. One of your revolving co-hosts when I wasn't around,
maybe.
But what Colleen said to me today was, did they edit it, or was that a 14-minute stretch, or however long it was, 16 minutes. And I said, I didn't even notice any edits in it, but I wasn't a part of that show, so I wouldn't know. And I said, but Colleen, it's so relevant to today that our listeners will love hearing that show. And I was blown away by what you did.
Well, I would say in any of our shows, I don't know who's going to be doing because we're not doing the production or the editing. But in so many of our shows, and I mean, there's 400 of them. Well, I don't think he's going to continue. For now, Tyler's doing it. But there is something in every of those shows that are timeless.
Yeah.
I mean, whether we were talking to physicists like Nassim Harriman or medical practitioners of some sort or authors or whoever it is. I mean, there is something relevant that it is not just pinned to the moment. In fact, I usually try and steer the conversation not to be too temporary or current eventy, that it just is something that would have applied, to your life at 10 years old or 100 years old. I mean, that's the nature of our show. Why we call it Awakening Code Radio is that there is something to awaken to. And Michelle, even we had this conversation because it seems almost more relevant to me, but I'm a huge fan of like John Steinbeck, and his muse was Ed Ricketts. And to them, the reason that humans are on this planet is to realize that it is an entirely connected system, that nothing is unconnected from everything else. This holistic view of not just your own life, but as it radiates out from you, everything you do, everything you think, every action you take, everything you say reverberates and affects something or someone out into the future, into the present. And that is, if you drop into that space where you can't drop too deep into that space, where you have that aha moment almost every day as you wake up and say, what I do matters, what to other people, and carry that with you, how important it is to be conscious of your life and the decisions you make and the way you treat people. That's, I believe, our mission. And life will look different the more people believe that what they do and say really has an effect. I think people that are on the dark side of that are the people that take people out with guns. It's like, I want to have impact, and they're going to know my name for this reason. We all, I think, want to have impact, and as soon as you get the idea that your impact is every second of every day, that's what my goal was 9 years ago, and it's the goal today. So there you go. I don't think it ever gets old.
You did that, Tyler. You did that on the Boy Meets 90s show.
Yeah.
You did that. I listened to the way that show flowed. And I have a daughter that was born in the 90s. And I kind of remembered it once Colleen reminded me of Boy Meets World. And then I was like, oh, yeah, was it Mr. Feeney?
Mr. Feeney.
Yeah. And so you were talking about how that, Mr. Feeney became this icon. But one of the things, and I love, there was a bad word in there. Did you remember that? I'm
doesn't
like,
matter.
I didn't, but it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And I wondered, because you didn't say it, but it was the guy you were interviewing.
He said it.
Yes.
Was it a really bad word?
It was an SH word.
Okay.
But he said that the show that came up around that time was Saved by the Bell. And he said that show was a show.
I see.
But the reason why people were so into Boy Meets World was because it was teaching about life. And I was really riveted to those, 15 minutes or whatever you had of that. And I have to admit, I'm one of those people. 2 hours is too long for me.
Right.
You've got me for about maybe 15 minutes max.
Yeah. I would guess you don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
I don't listen
in general. And you listen to one of mine because it was short.
Yep, exactly.
I think you
drew
are
me
proof in the pudding.
Well, now I've listened to plenty of podcasts that happen to be short.
Right.
But you have done something you're saying is unique in the world right now?
It's unique in that's the whole point. Yes, that everything is short and that every show on our network is and will always be short with no exceptions. I think that is indeed unique because there are some shows that happen to be short or certain episodes happen to be short, but ours will never push 20 minutes. And I think that helps people plan how to listen to our shows.
I agree.
It's like, I need to do the dishes. I could listen to a snippet show. Or, I'm going to wash the car. I could listen to a snippet show. It helps you consume it while you do something else.
I agree. I think it's a brilliant idea. And I'm actually honored and flattered that you picked
ours.
Our show because there is a lot of good content here.
And we weren't easy for him to pick because he was begging, he was asking me, where's your bio? Where's your picture? And I just didn't get to it. I was like, I have too much on my plate right now. And
well, originally, full transparency, I'd suggested you guys start a brand new show, but there's so much history here.
Yeah.
And there's so much you've already done here and so
Lots
much
and
content
yes.
that a new show would pale in comparison to.
Yeah.
That we can repurpose, which is the plan.
Totally, and I wouldn't even remember. I would listen to those shows with new ears.
It does feel. I have to say, part of my stomach went. That means they're going to be listening to every one of our shows because I knew that you listened every once in a while to maybe the beginning and maybe you popped in somewhere in, but I knew you didn't listen to our whole 2 hours.
Right.
And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
and now
no.
I am.
He's listening.
On the times where I made
just
mistakes or where I felt like a jerk or why did I say that? And then now Tyler's listening. Yeah, I had a moment.
There's
where
not
I got
going to be very much of that. The thing that's repetitive and just so stupid is me on the buttons because I don't want to start the show.
Edit it all out.
You can edit it. You just I
it
don't
will no longer be a problem.
I don't want to picture you listening to those intros just like, oh my God, he's so. I can't even say the word. It's not politically correct anymore. He's so challenged.
I kind of want to go into what some of the other shows are because it's such a broad spectrum.
We're halfway
through. Do you want to play the song?
You wanted to play a song. I picked a different song. I picked track 5.
I'm glad you picked.
Okay.
So where Eric and I were at before we came into the show tonight was our member appreciation party for KXFM, and Alyssa and Jane and Erica did and Ed did a fabulous job. And Tyler's so busy launching Snippet, he didn't show up.
Didn't even go.
And I understand, and I let her know that I talked to you, and you were, swamped with all your own stuff, and it was a really great time. And one of the bands that played was Trapdoor Social, and you didn't even know that Trapdoor Social was playing tonight at the party.
I remembered.
You remembered.
After I showed him the video.
And Trapdoor Social's done very well from a small band. They were touring with the B-52s through Europe last year.
One of the many bands that I can say we had some role in breaking launching at the radio station. Yeah,
for sure. They were amazing. And I went and bought one of their CDs so that we could play it tonight and give them a shout out. So Eric's ready to play Trapdoor Social.
All right. Thank you. For the first time we played music in a while.
Here we go.
Wake up call at 6 a.m. Just died in a dream at the wedding of an old friend. I had to fly on down on paper wings, but I couldn't pull out. And then I woke up singing a mournful hymn about a life so sweet that no one stopped living. living for just 1 second to think of what we'll leave behind for the children to sing. Try to anesthetize them, and they may never start listening to the world outside and all the change that'll bring. So come on, hold on tight, love, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening. There's such a world outside, love, that you may never stop listening. So let's face the fire, that we may cage the sun from that place inside. We crave to know what must be done, and there's no reason to hide. There's nowhere left to run, so we may choose to die, love, but we may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening. So come on, hold on tight, love, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening. There's such a world outside, love, that you may never stop listening. Close our eyes and go back to sleep, just let the world float by. You never have to fight to swim upstream. Put your heart in mine, spare everything. You gotta choose tonight, that you will never stop listening, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening. So come on, hold on tight, love, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening, that you may never stop listening. There's such a world outside, love, that you may never stop listening.
Hi, this is James Redfield, author of Self-Esteem Prophecy. Just wanted to say how much fun I had on Awakening Code Radio. I just want all of you to know that this radio show is a real thing. And to the host, I say, keep up the good work. Keep spreading that energy. That's what makes all the difference.
To me, there's some moments. I mean, we've had some great guests, but I can picture where I was reading Celestine Prophecy and the phenomenon that it caused that swept through America. And people, oh, it's real. It's not fiction. It's, you know, it sounds blah, 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 blah. It was so much buzz. And it truly was. People still talk today. I listened to someone just within the last week say that is the book that launched me on my spiritual journey, and that we have him saying Awakening Code Radio and all
That's
that.
it.
It's just
That's
like,
how
he almost said it like the Awakening Code. He almost said it like that.
Interesting.
I will tell you, Tyler, that is one of my suggestions for you to look at that one, to get that one up, because I know that you've got. And I'll start going through and thinking about some of the other ones, and let's put it out to our listeners.
I'm making a note right now. Yeah.
Listeners, what are some favorite shows of yours? Some standout shows.
Yeah, if you can let us know what some of the standout shows were.
Message us on our Facebook page.
Here's another good call to action for the listeners. Let's say that they've been trying to get a friend or family member to listen to your show, and the barrier of entry is just a little bit too high for them to do it. Well, here's a shortened version of one of the best shows they had. Listen to this.
Yes.
And then maybe they
definitely
get a new
think
fan.
There's a potential for more listeners, absolutely, in the short format.
Yeah.
I would be one of them.
Well, yeah, and I can tell you already do have some that are not crossed over. Some people have reached out to me and be like, wow, I loved the Awakening Code. And I'm like, did you know that it's been on the station for 10 years? They're like, no, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
some people have found it as well.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it a lot. I think it's a great idea. I think you are a person with vision. You have ideas. Where is there a hole? Where is there something to grow that's not overly saturated yet? So I think you're going to do really well with this.
Thank you.
And I want to hear more about some of the other ones because we want to give Snippet the crossover from Awakening Code Radio to Snippet and to some of these other shows because I think you have such a broad array. So let's go through them.
Sure. Any particular order?
Well,
which ones do you want to hear about?
So I want to hear about all of them, but I of course the Rockabilly Confidential because the Stray Cats were a part of my years that I was having fun doing that kind of dancing. But I really like the Conundrum of Cora Bay, the concept of the Conundrum of Cora Bay, because to me it brings you to another place in time, and I think that many of us are yearning for that other place in time. To just turn our brain off and to listen to some fiction through the headphones.
Yeah, Cora Bay is really cool. Okay, I'll tell you those in that order. And by the way, I can pull up, if we have time at the end of the show, I can pull up a trailer for one or two of those.
Super.
As a little teaser if you'd like. The Cora Bay trailer is really cool. So Rockabilly Confidential, just dumb luck that I got introduced to Slim Jim Phantom, who's the drummer of the legendary band that started Rockabilly, essentially called the Stray Cats. Mm-hmm. Lee Rocker lives in Laguna. Lee Rocker's the stand-up bassist for the Stray Cats. And I've known him for a while, but I never got to meet the other members of the band. And Lee's kind of got his own thing going on. Like we did a show for a little bit on KX, then he kind of left. And I don't think it was going to continue. And then I met Jim by way of Bruce Rave, who is also a host on the news station, who is the manager of Traptor Social, the band you just played on your show. They play in a softball league together in Sherman Oaks. Mm-hmm. And so it's just one of those connecting moments. And Bruce was like, would you like to talk to Jim about doing a show on the station and on Snippet? I talked to Jim. He's already a host on satellite radio. He's on Underground Garage on Sirius. And he's got a really cool show on satellite. So
I actually listened to that.
Yeah. So I figured the chance of him wanting to do another podcast is slim. But when, damn, that was unintentionally good.
It really was.
If I do say so.
Yeah, if I do say so myself. But when I presented him with the shortness of it, he was like, I could make 20 minutes a week. And that's part of the thing here, part of the just a little insight of the business. This is also how we're going to get celebrities and influencers to do a show, because we're not asking for very much from them at all. Mm-hmm. We do all the production. We do everything. It's like, just give us 20 minutes of your time every week. Say what you want. We'll turn it into a good show. So he had the idea of basically just telling stories of his rockabilly past. So that's why it's called Rockabilly Confidential, because he's letting you into the inside of his various encounters with celebrities, his backstage moments, and just his exciting, past that he has growing up as a rock and roller, and through the rockabilly movement. So the first episode, which is out now, is about him discovering the rockabilly style and him and everything he did. Like one day he was like, you know what? Screw how I look. I'm going to go change everything. And he went to the hair salon and slicked his hair up like Elvis. And he went down the street and got rid of his whatever pants for some bell-bottom type pants, and just totally invented the style, mm-hmm. and then started the Stray Cats. So it's really cool to learn like the birth of that. And even if you don't like rockabilly, which not a lot of people are be like, oh, I love rockabilly, like it's kind of a random thing to love. But even if you don't like it, he's an excellent storyteller. And then the final thing I'll say is we're taking advantage of a new loophole in podcasting where you can legally play licensed music by hosting the show exclusively on Spotify.
Oh my gosh.
It's the only way to do it. Because as you guys know, you can't put licensed music on Apple or other platforms. But if you do it on Spotify...
A lot of our shows have disappeared because of that.
Exactly. But if you do it on Spotify exclusively, it does work. Mm-hmm. And Jim's new show takes advantage of that. So he does play a few songs that have to do with the story he's telling on the show. So that's Rockabilly Confidential.
And I would like that because, and it's interesting, on KLOS, a big local station here in LA, for a while in lunchtime, they had the guitar player from the Sex Pistols.
Yes.
What was his name? I can't remember.
Jonesy's Jukebox.
Jonesy's Jukebox. I would listen to that just because everything you thought he would be is a punk drummer or bassist or whatever he was. He would play yacht rock. He would play ABBA. And he would have some story about how this and why he likes it, and take you into the underworld of music and production. And it was always interesting the way he told the story. It's totally unaffected.
Yeah.
And this sounds like something like that. So that sounds like a great show.
That's generally the idea with what Jim is doing on that show.
I'm going to love listening to that show.
Yeah, really cool. And then Corbet, you want to hear about that one?
Yes, I want to hear about that one.
So Conundrum of Corbet is a audio drama in the style of old 1930s and 1940s audio dramas. It kind of is a bit of a play or a mockery on those times, but in a serious modern tone. The show is kind of a funny mystery that takes place in 1937, where this professor is on his way to a new job in Portland. He's driving this old Packard, which you can see in the cover art of the show, and he gets derailed in a storm. A storm pushes his car off the road, he loses his tire, and he meets this dog on the side of the road who seems all-knowing, and he ends up wandering through the woods through this town called Corbet that he can't find anywhere on his map. And he meets this doctor who seems to be the only person living there for some inexplicable reason. And then he decides that he's going to try to he gets forced into trying to uncover the mystery of what's going on. Called The Conundrum of Corbet.
How did you come by this?
This was a cool COVID project. So I posted on Reddit to try to find scripts. And I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm making very short, episodic, narrative podcasts. I need, maybe you have something that works. Maybe you would write something. I posted to screenwriting forums. And I met this guy I've never met before in my life, named Eric Lambden, who had just won a couple screenwriting competitions. He's right out of college. He had this golf course zombie movie that had won a couple things. And he goes, I've got this other idea about this. It takes place in the 30s, so we could really kind of play on that old radio sound. And I think it would work for podcast. And I said, I only need 6 episodes. That's all I want. He goes, I could do that. And then I paid him a modest sum, and he wrote the whole show. And then we found actors all over the world, actually. So our Dr. Elias Shattersand is from New Zealand. Wow. He's really cool. And our narrator is from New York, and he does the perfect old-timey radio narrator voice. And then we got a couple locals playing.
Is this happening in real time?
No. There are podcasts that do that. That is a goal of mine at some point, but this is a pre-recorded, pre-produced show.
I just read about something just like this. I mean, within this week of somebody said, I'm listening to what sounds like old, and I couldn't even for sure know if they were talking about, did it have video aspects to it? And I don't think it did. It was just listening to it. So is there Foley artists? Is there sound effects?
Yes.
I can't wait. I think this will be great for people's bedtime stories.
Yeah. How fun.
If you type in snippet.fm on that computer, I can show you how to bring up the trailer in a little bit. Okay, well, whatever. We'll figure it out.
We'll do it on yours and plug it in.
We'll do it on the next break.
Yeah.
So, and I also noticed this one. Oh, it says coming soon. In the Cockpit with Ariel.
Yes, so Ariel Tweedo is she's local right now. She's a nomad and lives all over the planet, but right now she's local to Laguna. And she was on Discovery Channel on the show Flying Wild Alaska. She would fly around in little planes with her family, and her family became famous on Discovery Channel. And then she became the star of the new IMAX movie, which was made by local Greg McGillivray, called Into America's Wild. And she was the protagonist on that. So she's an adventurer and a pilot. And on this show, she's going to travel the globe and host a show from literally inside an airplane or talking to somebody on an airplane about her travels and where they're going.
Wow.
Yeah.
How fun.
Yeah. This one that says coming soon, Insight.
Hindsight.
I mean, hindsight.
Yeah.
Hindsight. Yeah. And this face is so compelling. This black and white picture just drew me in.
Yeah, this is my favorite show.
It
also happens to be that I'm doing. Because it's mine. I'm hosting a few of these, a couple of these, and this is one of the ones I'm hosting. So this was inspired during COVID, it's been about a year. We lost my great grandmother, who was 105 years old.
Oh, wow.
I know. She lived to be 105. And she didn't die from COVID, but I think she died in a way from loneliness because our family couldn't visit her anymore.
Yeah.
And she didn't really have much purpose to go on. And she wasn't that coherent at the end, but she was pretty together for 105. And it dawned on me that I really didn't have anything of hers recorded, videoed, hardly written down. I had nothing that I could be like, what was her life like? What was she like? What a missed opportunity. Why didn't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so what this show aims to do is get in recording interviews with very old people. 70 plus is what I'm saying, but most of the people on the show are in their 80s or 90s, talking about their lives, their stories, and sharing their insight and wisdom for this generation.
Great idea.
That's blowing my mind that you would bring that up, because just this weekend I was with my biological half-sister, who I didn't meet until I was in my 40s.
Wow.
And this is the first time she's ever visited me in California. I visited her maybe twice. I met her in August of 2001. We were scheduled to be on the flight, that second flight that, from 9/11, the flight that flew from Boston to New York.
What?
My family, Brian, Nikki, and I were scheduled to be on that same flight, the 8 a.m. flight going from Boston to New York, the same number flight, on 8/11. 9/11 happened a month later. And what happened was Nikki, our daughter, was in first grade. She fell and broke her arm in Boston, Copley Square. We had to take her to the hospital. It was a compound fracture, so she had to have surgery, and Brian and I slept on a cot with her. And all she could say is, I didn't get to go to the Statue of Liberty, and I ruined Papa's business trip, because we didn't get to go to New York. Wow. And I remember saying to her, everything happens for a reason. And exactly a month later, that would have been the flight, right?
That's insane.
And the other insane part is on 9/10, the next month, Brian flew to San Francisco early in the morning, and I woke up out of a dead sleep. He wasn't there. I started panicking and calling him like crazy. Answer the phone, and he had already turned it off because he was on the plane. And he was just flying up to San Francisco and back. But I had this weird feeling, and I was completely overcome with, I needed to talk to him. And he called me, and he goes, what is your deal? When he got to San Francisco, He goes, Michelle, I always travel like this, like a bus ride. I'll see you tonight. And I go, I don't know what it is. I just needed to hear your voice. So he came home. He came home that night. Everything was fine. The next morning, his mom calls and says, Michelle, did I wake you? And I said, no, I was in the shower. And she goes, where's Brian? And I go, in the shower. Like, I'm totally busted that we're in the shower together. And I'm telling my mother-in-law that.
He's still in the shower.
Exactly. And she says, go turn on the TV. And that's when the second plane hit the tower. I stood in my bedroom watching the second plane hit, and I freaked out. And it was a horrible day. I'll never forget that. Of course, most people won't forget that.
Yeah.
But the twist to it is, that meeting in San Francisco was originally scheduled to be in those Twin Towers on like the 81st floor. And the man that flew to San Francisco from those towers, that was in San Francisco on 9/10, one of them died because he flew back that night and he went to work the next day on 9/11.
Oh my God.
And the meeting was scheduled for 9/11 in those towers, but they redid it and made it in San Francisco on 9/10. I had survivors.
So he would have been there.
Brian would have been there. I had survivor's guilt for a while. It was a crazy thing, but that was a long way of telling you about the story about my half sister. So
I am still wondering.
I mean, that was extremely interesting.
It was, and what I want to share with you is that when I found my birth mother, I learned that her mother came over from Germany in 1939. She left behind her mom, her dad, and her brother, and she never saw them again. They were killed in the Holocaust at Auschwitz. And that was like a big thing. She didn't, because I'm adopted, she didn't want my birth mom to let the kids know that they had a half-sister. Like, she wanted me to go away. Mm-hmm. She did not want that secret out. Yeah. And my birth mom said, Mom, I really want you to meet her. I ended up being very close to her when we flew out there that August. something told me to videotape her and have her tell me about her experience. And I videotaped her, and she showed me this case. It was a glass case, and it was everything that she could bring. And it's not much, but the little bits that she could bring on that boat was all she had left of her memories of her family that she left behind in Germany. Wow. They were a very affluent family. They thought they could outlast it with money and food, and they had help, and they had a summer home and a winter home and lots of cars, and they didn't leave. But my birth mom's mother left and came over. So when you said that, it really struck something in me that I actually did get her story on video, and I told that to my half sister on Sunday. And she was so grateful. She was like, "You have video," and I'm thinking, I never have even gotten it out and looked at it again. Yeah. So it's time. It's on one of those little videos that I got to get transferred.
If you're willing, I could use that and turn it into part of a show. Hindsight.
Yeah, I did it with my grandfather too, who came over from Russia.
I would love to use both those pieces, because the idea of the show is that we don't talk to just one person each episode. We pick a theme. Mm-hmm. This is why it's taking a long time to put together. We pick a theme and have a bunch of older people talking about that
subject. Yeah. And I'll throw my 30 seconds in because that's all I got.
Oh, sorry. I took up your whole time.
I was just thinking within the last couple of weeks, my great-grandmother, who I knew, I have vivid memories of my great-grandmother. She was born in 1897. So when I don't know how old she was when I was young. I was born in 60, but I remember her from 65, 6, 7, 8 while she was still alive, going to her farmhouse in Riverside, growing, had chickens and vegetables and everything else. But she was born pre everything that we use today, virtually electricity, born airplanes, cars. Yeah, who I knew personally, born in the 1800s. So I think that's a great idea for a show. Yeah. Next one.
Thank you. Any other ones you want to hear about? I know we're almost out of time, right?
Yeah, I was going to grill you on. I want to hear. Just give us the titles and like the elevator pitch.
Sure. The other shows are The Awakening Code, which is these terrible guys.
Yeah, horrible.
Okay, so the shows are Record Roadmap, which is another one I'm doing that takes 3 songs from an artist's career, one from the past, one from the middle, and one from the present, and we talk about the story of them as people by way of those 3 songs as a journey through time. Wow. Boy Meets 90s, we already talked about. The only other 2 are The Closet Space, which is an LGBTQIA plus show hosted by a very good friend of mine, my roommate in college, who happens to be gay, who happens to be Sri Lankan, who lives in West Hollywood. And so far in his show is interviewing these like legends of West Hollywood, like the poet laureate of that area. There's this very famous drag queen named Tony, who everybody knows, and he's talking to them about their coming out stories, and then like their lives, living out of the closet. Yeah. And then finally, Rave's Indie Radar, Bruce Rave, who we've talked about a couple times tonight, every Friday will debut like some fresh new indie tracks. I
think you've got a great start.
I
just want to applaud you for your perseverance, because I know it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I know you had the vision, and as my husband always says, vision without execution is hallucination. And you're one of the best executioners I think I've ever met.
Thank you.
Wow.
I mean that in a good way.
That's my new title, executioner. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I have always thought that I have lots of ideas. But then I pick one that I'm like, I'm really gonna do this thing, and I don't do it half.
You don't.
You just have to go for it.
Yeah.
And,
do you still have the escape bus?
I do.
Yeah, that we had a great time doing the escape bus.
And it's doing pretty well. We just redesigned the game completely, and we have a brand new game called Grand Theft Galaxy. That's a futuristic techie game inside the escape bus.
How fun!
Yeah. So. I got plenty going on.
Do you have a brick and mortar?
We do. Yeah, it's called Breach Escape Games in Lake Forest.
Lake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. When I lecture at the Integratron where you went, I was hoping we'd have a little bit of because when I got your initial reaction to my pitch about what our show was going to be,
yes,
and I'm like,
coming back to that,
that's not really reverberating with you per se or what you thought the radio show. In the course of the 9 years, do you think that what we've done and your personal track of what spirituality means, or what this conversation, whether it's talking about extraterrestrials or dolphins or healing or expansion or conscious living, Has that changed at all in your last 9 years?
Of course it has.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. You only have to listen to you guys for one episode, I think, to have people's frame of thinking about the universe change a little bit. And we joke about it all the time. I love to make fun of the stuff you talk about on your show, but man, it gets me sometimes. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've gotten into my head quite a bit in a good way on this show, and gotten me to expand and think about things in ways I wouldn't have predicted that I would be thinking about.
Oh. And I remember you came out to the Integratron, one of the workshops.
Yep.
I heard about the Integratron through Michelle.
Yep.
Do these workshops, and you were I think you just went for freak show
did.
quality of it.
Yep.
Like, oh, this is going to be so ridiculous.
I know the eye roll thing.
Yes.
I remember, yeah.
And I told two things happened and I tell one of the stories. You are part of my presentation at the Integratron, because we talked about this geomagnetic work that was being done at the Integratron, and somebody had delicate equipment like a compass, and they realized that there was like a vortex energy, magnetic energy in the Integratron, like inside this dome. And the person working on this equipment, as soon as they got to the exact center, had a flare up on their electronics. And you said, so are you saying if I take my iPhone and put the compass function on and I walk around and I put it against the middle, something's going to happen? I said, I'm not saying any of that. I'm telling you what somebody did. But you got your phone out, put compass mode on, walked around, the compass was kind of spinning around, and then you touched it to this wood column, and all of a sudden the thing just flared up in this white blinding light and locked. Like, this is what it just did.
Like,
and
it short-circuited.
I can't get it to do anything else.
Well, if I wasn't a believer before, then that certainly did the trick.
And then the second half, Colleen went to that particular one that you went to, and we were playing tones upstairs in this dome. It's a 2-story building in the Integratron. You can look it up, listener. And we were playing these tones, and you could hear them being played, but downstairs, out of nowhere, and this hasn't happened since, there was like a feminine voice coming from the ethers inside the Integratron that just kept repeating over and over what sounded like, Colleen.
I remember.
Colleen. And you walked up to me like, okay.
I remember. It's clear as day. Even the way you just sang it is the way I would have sang it too, because I remember it exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It was a weird thing. Kind of like Anthony Bourdain went to the Integratron.
Yeah.
Even, I guess,
it's a great episode.
It made it into the movie about him, Roadrunner.
Oh, I've been wanting to watch that. Yeah. And he also visited Josh Homme's record studio that's in that same area.
It was that same episode.
Yeah.
But he went, and I knew he was going to the Integratron, like, oh, he's going to rip this place apart. And he left there going, I don't know what it is, but there's something going on there.
Yeah. I was disappointed that I ended the trip still on Earth. I thought I was going to ascend.
You think you might be in a parallel universe.
Could be. Maybe I went somewhere.
You are married with a child now. Did you expect that to happen?
I sure didn't.
No.
I sure didn't.
See? It's Tyler 2.0 was birthed in the Integratron.
You might be right, dude.
Too funny. Well, we're at our hour mark.
I do want him to play the trailer.
I'll come over there.
And I
do
want to say, while you're coming over here, Tyler, one of the things that you talked about in the episode I listened to on Boy Meets 90 was, I wrote it down because you said something about do the right thing when it's easy, but doing the right thing when it wasn't easy was the thing to do. I think you were talking about, maybe that was how you edited that show, right? Do you remember that? Talking about that from Boy Meets?
You can't talk about it right now. He's doing research.
Oh.
He's bringing it up. That is a cool. I had not seen the snippet website. It's good.
And then the other thing I like, Tyler, is the way you ended it. You said, dream, try, do good. Yeah. So it really felt like it was I felt like I got transported to this inspirational,
just quit play.
Almost like what you were talking about that you were feeling from our show, that when I listened to those 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I really felt like.
All right, we're going to play the intro to the Conundrum of Cora Bay. Oh, the trailer. Yeah. I got you.
And then went.
Why all of the time? Oh, hello there. I almost didn't see you out there in Radio Land, sitting in your parlor or your automobile.
We know you have a myriad of choices for audio drama entertainment these days, but have you heard of the adventure, the mystery, the romance of The Conundrum of Cora Bay?
The small Northern California town of Cora Bay. An ancient secret, a hidden legacy, and a terrifying future.
Professor Brian E. Keaton. I was on my way up to Portland to start a new teaching position.
The professor only wanted a tank of gas and a spare tire so he could get back on the road to his plum new job in Portland, Oregon. But this intriguing hamlet on the misty rock-strewn shores of the Pacific Ocean continues to draw him in. But who is the puppet master that pulls all these strings? Who can the professor trust, and who should he fear? Could it be the mercurial and unpredictable Dr. Elias Shattersand who offers Professor Keaton room and board for the weekend?
Once I was Dr. Elias Shattersand, and I lectured in the finest medical schools on all 5 continents.
Or could it be the doctor's alluring and magnetic daughter, Sonia Shattersand, who defends her father's house with ferocious intensity?
What kind of wing-ding were you and my father cooking up?
Or could it be any of the other residents? Could it be the very town itself? Join us as we follow Professor Keaton straight into the heart of the
Conundrum of Cora Bay.
Only on Snippet.
How fun.
That is incredible.
Cool, right?
That is very, very cool. I already know. I think I already know which ones of our listeners are going to want to listen to that. I can name their names, you know?
I feel like there's some Awakening Code listener crossover in interest for that show, perhaps,
Yeah, there should be
there's a lot, without giving it away, there's some supernatural elements to the show, for sure, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Victoria's listening. She wasn't hearing it, and then she heard it. And Lori Taylor loves it. She loves the laughter. She already gave us a suggestion for one of the shows she wants to hear a snippet of, which was our show called Trauma to Triumph with Lori Burns. That was an epic show.
Okay, I got it.
We've had a lot of really good shows.
And Colleen wrote in. Of course, she had her magic wand picture. She's writing in because when it said Colleen, it sounded like Colleen.
Yeah.
Right. So Lori Taylor is writing, this snippet is so cool, and she's going to be one listening to that show.
Okay, cool.
For sure. And I figured Lori Taylor would be one, and Karen, and probably Gary Grunwald, Melitza. I mean, we have listeners that I have formed really deep bonds and friendships with.
Right.
And I think they're really going to like this. So...
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
I thank you for spending the whole hour with us.
Yeah.
I know your time is limited. I know tomorrow's your big, you're having the big meeting tomorrow night.
Yes, we do have a webinar tomorrow or in-person seminar if you want to attend in Irvine. If you search for Snippet Seminar on Eventbrite, you can get all the details. But basically, we're doing some instruction on how to start your own podcast or be a better broadcaster or host or whatever. We're going to finally teach Eric how to do the buttons.
I know, we're coming tomorrow night. Yes.
We're talking about good interviewing skills and structuring a show and some other stuff just to help prospective podcasters, because I want to also kind of give back a little bit with this and not just make it all about us. So that's the idea tomorrow.
I think it's the whole package. And the last thing we want to share with our listeners, we love everything you've done with KXFM, and it is time for us to do our annual fundraising. So we do have our Taste of Laguna coming up. Is it October 14th?
That's what I hear. October 14th.
October 14th, Taste of Laguna, full-fledged. It's going to be another great food and music festival, and tickets are on sale at tasteoflagunabeach.com. So if you want to come to our Taste of Laguna, that will be a fundraiser that benefits not only Laguna Beach, but it benefits KXFM as well. So we wanted to put that out there. And Tyler, amazing. Give your wife Monica, Lily FM, little Lily FM, your daughter, big hugs.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck. Thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be a part of this. It really is.
And Eric and I get to stay after, like two little kids from school, and now record our intros for next week's show. Yeah.
Do we have to do that tonight?
Yeah, we have to do it after every show now. Yeah.
All right, you better hurry up. Get him out of here.
All right, well, we'll sign off to everybody. And Tyler, you're going to say it with us.
Ready?
We're going to remind everybody,
yes.
Be good humans.
Thank you
so much. We'll see you next week, everybody.
This is Eric Rankin.
And Michelle Anderson from Awakening Code Radio.
Right here on KXFM.
We'd like to invite you to join a conversation to raise the vibration.
Broadcasting live every Tuesday night from 8 to 10 p.m., we cover all aspects of the process of awakening, whether it's emotional or spiritual growth.
And have hosted such luminaries as Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, James Redfield, and many others.
With a global audience, our show is one of the most listened to programs here at KXFM.
And we would love for you to join the conversation.
You might have noticed a change in your neighborhood lately. Yep, Sprint stores are now T-Mobile stores. Now that Sprint is T-Mobile, you get more coverage, value, and benefits than ever before. We've invested billions to bring our 5G from big cities to small towns across America. And great coverage is just the start. From high-speed mobile hotspot data to weekly deals and giveaways, our customers get tons of great benefits. Head to your new T-Mobile store to learn more.
Qualifying service and capable device required. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain plan or features. See T-Mobile.com.
The perfect video needs the perfect music. That's why premium beat tracks are produced by award-winning musicians at world-class studios. Plus, our license gives you tracks for a lifetime. Pay once and never again. Save 25% on your next track at premiumbeat.com/royalty-free/podcast.